evening, students. Uh, Today, our topic is relational model concepts. Now, this relational model concepts is a subtopic in the Unit 2. We're still in Unit 2, and this is the last part of it, which is going to be covered. Let's see what all things we are going to look under this subtopic. We are going to look into a couple of important concepts like what do you mean by a domain, what do you mean by an attribute, what are tuples, what are relations. Okay, so we will try and define them, and as and when I come across the subtopics, I will be telling you as to how you might be queried in the examination. Accordingly, you can start preparing and prepare notes for the same. Now, what is a domain? Domain is nothing but a set of atomic values. Okay, it is non-divisible. It is indivisible. Now, what do you mean by that? Now, domain of any particular attribute, uh, domain is for a particular attribute. For example, if it is USA phone numbers, USA phone number is one attribute. Now, what has been defined for it? The domain says that it is a 10-digit phone number valid in United States. Okay. There's another attribute which has been named as local phone number. Then in that, the domain has been defined as 7-digit phone number valid within a particular area code in United States. Okay, so these that I am telling, this definition, the 10-digit phone number, or let's say 7-digit phone number, or for that matter social security numbers, the next example, which is expecting that you enter 9-digit social security number. All these are domains, okay, which are defining what are the set of atomic values which are expected in that particular attribute. Okay, so it is expected, if it is social security number, it is expected that you enter 9-digit social security number. Okay, so this is nothing but non-divisible, it is indivisible. If you divide it into parts, or maybe you give a little less than 9 digits, it's not valid, it's not a valid entry. Okay, it does not go according to the constraint that you have defined for it, the way that you have defined. So this is what is atomic, which is non-divisible, and this is what is the definition, and definition is nothing but domain. Now, a couple of things, and now you'll be expected that you should be able to define these all terms. These all terms cannot be just verbally spoken English is different from what you should be writing, so definitely you have to write it in that particular language, or that particular terminology has to be used to properly define the various important terms. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of them. Okay, I'll be reading out and then I'll try and explain it to you. In a relation schema, R denoted by R is in the bracket a1 comma a2 comma an is made up of relation name R. So R is the relation name. Okay, and what are the attributes? All these a1, a2, so on up to an, all these are attributes. Okay, so AI is the name of the role played by some domain D in the relationship schema R. D is called the domain of AI and is denoted by domain of AI. Okay, so this means you need to understand, when I say a relation R, then I'm indicating R is nothing but the table within my database. Okay, so if I was talking about a student table, with couple of the columns. Let's say USN is one column, and then maybe his student name is another column, and couple of other attributes which I need not list, but just assume there are a couple of other attributes. Then the relation name is this. Then they say it has A1, A2 and AN all these as attributes. So USN is one attribute, name is another attribute, maybe marks in couple of subjects are other couple of attributes. So these all are attributes which have been indicated here. Come back here to this representation. R is the name of the table, that is student. A1 is maybe USN. A2 here is name here. AN here is other attributes. Dot dot dot, all these attributes, the various attributes will be represented by A3, A4 and so on. So this is nothing but the meaning of what do you mean by relation and what do you mean by the attributes. Okay, how do you represent them? Now in this representation that I am showing here, domain. Okay, so domain of USN, maybe I have defined domain of USN. If I want to, the name of the attribute here is USN, then maybe I have defined it as a varchar. Okay, and maybe 10, expecting that you actually write to GI 18 MCA and so on, so that it has the combination of numbers and digits both, and the length is maybe 10. I'll assume it. I haven't counted though, but then I'll assume that the length is 10. So this is what is meant by domain. So when I say domain AI, then I'm talking about each one of them. Domain of A1, domain of A2, domain of A3, domain of A4 and so on. So all the attributes here, domain of all the attributes. Okay, so this is what is that meaning. Now what do you mean by degree of the relation? Degree of the relation is nothing but how many number of attributes are there. Assume that in this student table I have 5 columns. If I have 5 columns in this particular table, then I am talking about the degree of this table being 5. So degree of student table will be 5. So this is what is the meaning of the degree. Okay, it is nothing but the number of. So for example, it has been given here. Can you just see student table is there, and what all fields are there? There is name, there is SSN, then there is home phone number, then there is address, then there is office phone number, there is age, there is GPA. So let's count how many attributes are there. If I tell you count the number of what is the degree, tell the degree of student table or student relation. Please remember, I might refer to the table as relation, as I just introduced you to the new terminology. Now just let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So the degree of this particular table is 8. Okay, so this is what is the next term that I introduced you, that is what the degree of the relation. And when I say relation, please remember relation is nothing but table. Okay, now next thing we will read it out and understand. I am trying to introduce you to a concept which is known as tuple. Okay, a relation, let me read the further things. A relation, okay, which is having the representation as R, A1, A2 and so on. Also okay, a relation of relation schema, also denoted by this, is a set of n tuples. Okay, what do you mean by what do you mean by that? It is a set of, okay, is also denoted as R of R. R is this capital R is nothing but the relation, that is the table, and this small r is a set of curly braces. It is being given as curly braces. So it is a set of T1 comma T2 comma so on, and each n tuple in a ordered list. What do you mean by that? That this student table, that is nothing but the relation, can be represented as a set of tuples. Okay, so it is T1 comma T2 comma T3 and so on. How many rows are there? Those mean tuple is nothing but, let me just clarify in simple terms, tuple is nothing but number of rows, or each tuple is one row. Okay, so for example, in this table, if there is this first row, okay, row 1, R1, row 1 I will write down. Let me not confuse you with this R, so I'll just write it as row 1. So there is row 1, and then maybe there is another row, row 2, and so on. And how many rows are there, how many entries are there? Maybe this is for your class. So how many students are there in our class? It is 39 students. So in 39 students I have entry for each one of you. So it is 39 tuples are there, 39 rows are there. That means how many tuples are there? 39 tuples are there. This is what is meant by a tuple. So a relation which was represented as R1, which is a combination or a set of or the different attributes A1, A2 and so on till AN. So A1 represents, in this case if I try and highlight this particular example, A1 is our name, A2 here is our SSN and so on, A3 is our home, A4 is our phone number, home phone is one only, so it is A3. Then A4 is address, then office phone number is A5, then age is next A6 and A7. So this is what is. So did I count the degree wrong? Just try and find it out, students. Maybe I counted it wrong. 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7. Sorry, the degree is 7. Okay, so this is what is meant by tuples. Tuples and degree. So tuples is how many rows are there in a table is known as the tuple, and how many attributes are there is known as the degree. Okay, now one beautiful example has been displayed here. Now look at this. This is student table. So the name of the relation is student. Okay, the various attributes are name, SSN, home phone number, address, office phone number, age and GPA. Now there are couple of rows. That means I have stored these informations for how many people? 5 people. Can you just count the number of rows? One first person is this, second person is here, third person is here, and fourth, and then 5. So for 5 people I have stored this particular information, that is their name, SSN, home phone number, address, office phone number, age and GPA. So these are nothing but tuples. The number of rows will be known as tuples. So I have introduced you to couple of terminologies here. I talked about what is a relation and how relation can be represented as the set of the various attributes A1, A2, so on. Till how many attributes are there, so on. So here in our table, this is A1, this is A2. Just for understanding, A3, A4, A5, A6 and A7. Okay, if somebody asks you what is the degree of this table, definitely how many attributes, those many. So 7 attributes are there, so 7 is the degree of this table. And then how many tuples are there? The tuples are, there are 5 rows, so 5 tuples. So this is what is 5 tuples. Now we will just try and get acquainted with the different ways in which the relation can be represented. Okay, so the going by the same definition and same understanding as to what is a relation, what are the attributes and what do you mean by a domain and so on, we will just try and look at the different representations. So I'll just read it out for you. A relation R of R is a mathematical relation of degree n on domains, domain of A1, domain of A2 comma so on till domain of An, which is a subset of Cartesian product, okay, of the domains. That means domain of A1 is all the possible values that it can take up for A1. A1 is one attribute, right? So domain of A2 is all the possible values that it can take for A2, and so on till last domain, last attribute, so domain of An. Now Cartesian product of that, that means all possible values for all these attributes when multiplied, whatever is the set, this relation is a subset of that. It has taken couple of or all the possible values within that particular relation. That means there might be if there is a huge table, supposingly, I mean whatever, like student table only 7 attributes, you know, and for these all attributes, there are couple of possible entries. So how the possible combination of all these in these rows are different. Possible rows are possibilities are these many possible values can be there. But how many actually have been entered? There were only 5 rows. Do we remember from the last diagram that I showed you? There were only 5 rows. Can you see here? 5 rows. So that is definitely possible values are more, but how many are there in the relation? There are only 5 rows. That means that is a subset, or it is equal to subset, or it is equal to the Cartesian product of this. So the same thing has been represented here. This is nothing but all the possible values that are possible for any domain, okay, the Cartesian product of that. So this is what is another. This is from the angle that in case in the examination you are given this representation and you are trying you are told to justify it, then you should be able to at least on first hand you should be able to make out the meaning. What do you mean by that particular representation? If you suddenly see this representation on the screen and or in your paper, sorry, then you will not be, if you do not know the meaning of it, how do you answer? So you should know the representations, the various different forms of representation. Meanings are the same, only thing is differently they have been represented, and if you are told to justify, then you can justify. So this is what is the meaning of this representation. Now another subtopic that we will take up now is here characteristics of relations. Characteristics of relations can be based on couple of things. So we are just trying to order it differently. We are trying to understand if the ordering of the tuples in a relationship, based on the ordering of tuples, is there any rule regarding the ordering of tuples? There is absolutely no ordering of tuples. If you can just recall and try and remind yourself as to what do you mean by the tuples. Tuples is nothing but the rows. So there is no particular order in which the rows have to be recorded. So there is absolutely no order among them. So this is what is meant by we are trying to list out what are the characteristics of a relation. The first characteristics is ordering of tuples. There is absolutely no ordering of tuples. Now, ordering of values within the tuples. So that means I am talking about the attribute value. So if I am talking about entire row, then I am talking about the various attribute values which will be entered sequentially one after the other. Okay, so this is what is meant by the ordering of values. Okay, this absolutely has no importance as long as it is giving it just signifies that this all is related to one particular person only. Supposingly I am talking about the student number to be entered here, and then name to be entered here, and then couple of SSN and all those values which were there to be entered in the same. So as long as these all values belong to the same person, it doesn't actually matter whether I write SSN first or name first or some other thing first. So it is absolutely meaningless to meaningless, or it is absolutely of no importance. Okay, so this is what is ordering of values. So this is another characteristics. Then values of the attributes. For a relation to be, it has been told that according to the first normal form, all the domains should be atomic. That means neither composite nor multi-valued values should be allowed. If you remember, I have been telling you that there are a couple of type of values. We have seen that there are composite type of values, there are multi-valued attributes. Multi-valued attributes as in the some attribute which can have multiple values. For example, I had told you that you might have a phone number as multi-value. That means a person has 2-3 phone numbers, or maybe he has one landline and he has one mobile number. Or composite values, if you remember what is composite value, then if it is name, then name is divided into first name, then middle name, middle name, okay, and then last name. So this is composite. So name will be a set of these all. So it is represented like this. So attributes in an ER diagram we had seen. So these all according to first normal form, it is not allowed. Okay, so when we go into the normal forms, we will see how to deal with them. Okay, and then it is also said that you cannot have null values. Okay, so in case you have null values, what is the meaning that you derive? Because why you should not have null values? These are all the characteristics of relation. Remember, I am telling you these. Okay, so null values are nothing but which derive the meaning that you do not know. When do you put null value? When you want to say that I do not know. Supposingly there is a field called a phone number, or let's say Aadhaar card number. Okay, so somewhere in your some form Aadhaar card number is asked, and you just write it as null below it. What all meanings can I derive out of Aadhaar card being termed as null? That now next attribute is interpretation of the relation. Now interpretation of relation is nothing but that any relation represents some fact about anything. I mean some real time entity. For example, if I'm talking about student and this table that I have been showing you, then in that case that particular student table is showing certain real time facts about the student, his name, his SSN, and his many other attributes. So this is what is meant by a relation. So that is what is the meaning. So this is what has been explained here. Some relations represent the facts about the entities, or there might be some other relationships or relations which might be giving the relationship between the different entities. So there might be some other some other tables or relations. If I am talking about relations, there sorry if I am saying relation the term, then please remember it is the table that I am referring to. So in certain other cases, these tables might be representing the relationships also among the different tables. So this is also possible. So this is what is the interpretation of a relation. So having said that, I have finished the characteristics. So what we saw was in these few slides is the characteristics of the relation. What are the 4 characteristics? So first one is ordering of the tuples, ordering of values within the tuples, and then values of the attributes and null values, what is the meaning of it, and what is the meaning of a relationship or interpretation of a relationship. Okay, having done that, let's come to the next thing, that is the relational model notation. So we will just brush up the various notations which are popularly used in relational model. Okay, so first one, I have already introduced you to this. R is a relation. And what is A1, A2, A3? Please remind yourself. A1, A2, so on till AN is nothing but the various attributes within that particular relation. Okay, so this is what has been told. So they'll be represented as A1, A2. Now if I want to represent the relation names as in, so can you see here R has been represented. So whenever you are writing something in capital QRS, that means I'm talking about a relation is nothing but table. Okay, table. Okay, so table name can be represented with the capital letters. Okay, so the example has been given. If I write QR, one is already here. And then in the end, another one is uh, another notation says, another thing says that you have something in small letters. Okay, the lowercase, that is QRS. In that case, it is relation state. Okay, relation state. Okay, so that means one particular tuple. What is the state of the relation? When I take one tuple into consideration, at that instance of time, those are the values of that particular relation. So that is what is the relation state. So R of R, the lowercase r is the state, relation state, and the capital R is nothing but the relation itself. Now, if I want to refer to the tuples, now all of you have got introduced to the new terminology, that is tuples. Tuples is nothing but rows within any table. So that can be represented with the with the alphabets T, U, V. So these will be called as tuples. Now I can also make use of a dot operator. So you can see R dot A. Okay, so when will I use it? When we start writing the queries. It is a very popular way of handling it, popular way of fetching certain attributes of particular table. Why is it used? Is you can say R is nothing but the relation or table name, A is nothing but the attribute of it. So can you see the example here? Student is the name of the table, dot name is the attribute of it. One of the columns is named as name. Okay, so why do I use it? What is the importance of this dot operator? Is maybe name the attribute is in many other tables. Okay, so name is there in student table, name is there in employee table. There are maybe in your database there are couple of 2-3 tables in which name attribute is there. So somebody or the system itself or the DBMS might confuse this particular name with any other attribute of some other table. So to avoid the confusion, you say student tables name attribute. So if you want to say that it is some other table, maybe employee table, you will simply write the name of the table or relation name. So relation name is employee and the attribute of it, maybe the attribute name is the same. So now you can see when I write employee dot name, it is very clear I am referring to the employee tables or employee relations, the name attribute. When I write student dot name, then it is very clear I am talking about student, the relation and the name, the attribute in it. So this is what, these are couple of the basic notations that we usually use, and if you come across them, derive correct meaning out of it. Now let's go to one more subtopic which talks about the relational model constraints. Okay, so there can be categorized these constraints as restrictions or the guideline to how the data or what kind of data should be entered into the database. Okay, so for those constraints or for the rules, constraints are nothing but rules. Okay, so for these rules, the rules can be categorized based on the following. So first type of constraints would be categorized as inherent model based. Inherent as in which are by default there. Okay, they are assumed to be there. You don't have to define it separately. Okay, so they are inherent model based. That means what? No two tuples, what are example has been given. So no two tuples as in two rows can have the same value. Obviously no two rows should have the same value. If they have the same value, then why do we write it separate? No, we could have had only one row representing it. What's the point in having one or more than one having the same values? Okay, so this is what is some default things or default constraints on any particular database. Then another type of constraint would be categorized as schema based. Now, what do you mean by schema based? That means when you prepare the schema of that database, you put some restrictions. How will you put it? Depending on the data definition language. So when you write the create command, you might write not null or make it primary key or varchar 10. So 10, you're restricting the user that he has to enter the varchar kind of value or maybe number as the data type, and you're telling the length also, maybe 10 or maybe 5. So this is what is the restriction. So schema based, you define using the data definition language uh, into the database, and that is schema based. Then certain restrictions can be application based. That means your application is putting in some restrictions. Okay, for example, you haven't defined anything in your database, but your application is putting some restrictions. Restrictions can be as simple as, example, some superior, there is subordinate and superior employee database is there, some application related to it. Then imagine that you have put a application based restriction that any let's say manager always has to, the manager always has to have salary, so manager salary has to be greater than the subordinate salary. So is this a fair condition? Yes. Manager salary always has to be greater than the subordinate salary. So this is some restriction. So you will always check if subordinate salary goes greater than the manager salary, then you will actually have some kind of action being taken. You will have some error message being given on the application. So this is application based. You have built this kind of restriction using your application, using the front end. Okay, so these are the various ways in which, or the various categories of the constraints. One is inherent, the other one is schema based, the other one is application based. Now going for the first one, that is schema based constraints. The first one, just now talked about these all, so we are elaborating on the schema based. So the first one is domain constraints. Okay, so when I am having a schema based constraint, then I can have the kind of restrictions put on the attribute as to whether it can have null values, whether it cannot have null values, what is the length and all that. So domain constraints. Domain, everybody understands by now what is a domain. Domain defines what kind of atomic value any attribute can take. Okay, so or any attribute can acquire. So this is what is domain. So you define the domain accordingly, and that is what is can be categorized as schema based constraint. The next one is key constraint. Now key constraint is nothing but you define certain attribute as primary key. Okay, primary key maybe. Then if you all remember what is a primary key is any attribute whose value will help you identify or segregate it from the rest of the other values, other tuples. Okay, this is what is primary key. Now for example, I have already given you this explanation, but let's try and repeat it. for example, if there is a student table, okay, and then I have couple of attributes here, and I will just say there is a USN attribute, there is name attribute, okay, and so on, okay. So we know that name can be repetitive, so many people can have the same name, even surnames can go by fluke same, and any other, maybe marks is there, M1, M2, and marks for the various subjects, so marks also can go the same. Now how do I identify this student's values from this student value? Maybe the both of them have the same name. So what do I do? Definitely I will make use of USN, because I know this person has USN 1 and this particular person has USN 2. So I can uniquely identify one particular student from the other student using one attribute, which is USN. This is nothing but the primary key, okay. So this we have already introduced ourselves with what is primary key. Now let's do, what do you mean by super key? There is a mention called super key, okay. This subtopic is talking about key constraints. So once I define some attribute as primary key, it is but obvious that this primary key field cannot have null values. Do we agree to this? So it cannot have null values. Why it cannot have null values? Assume that for one of the students the USN has been listed as null or 0. What do you mean by that? Does that mean that he doesn't exist or no USN has been given to him? So this is completely wrong. How if a value called null or 0 is put for that particular primary key, then how do I identify the various values related to that particular student? How do I fetch his the various information that I have stored in that table? So it defeats the entire purpose of having the primary key. The purpose of having the primary key is to uniquely identify each and every row. So that is completely defeated. So primary key cannot have the null value. So we are talking about the key constraints. So this is one restriction. So once I define it, it is not a null value. Now let's talk about what is a super key. Now super key is that along with this primary key, I might have one or two other attributes to make up to the super key. Okay, so I might take any combination is possible. USN at least is primary key, so it is compulsory for me to take the primary key. I'll just represent it as primary key. Okay, along with it I might take name. Okay, or maybe I might even add some other, if address and all is there, then I might add address, or I might not add address, I'll just take USN and name. Okay, that is also possible. So that is nothing but super key. Super key is primary key along with the other attributes which will help me. And what is the purpose? Purpose is the same. Purpose is that we again are able to uniquely identify one particular row. Okay, so that is what is meant by super key. Now they have termed something as a minimal super key. Minimal super key as in what? The minimum attribute which has to be there in a super key. As I told you, in a super key I can have various combinations. Supposingly there are 7 fields. Let's go back to the table here, formal table here, which we have seen already, and then maybe I'll just brush it up for you. Okay, let's see. Supposingly I have declared this SSN as the because it seems to be unique, so let me declare it as primary key. Now for super key I have various combinations possible. What are the various combinations? Primary key is compulsory. Without it I cannot uniquely identify. Along with it I can take any of the combinations. Maybe I want to take name, so that will also be a super key. Maybe with primary key I want to take let's say home phone number, so I want to take home phone number. Okay, so I can take that. Or maybe I want to take primary key name and phone number, that is also possible. So I can have, so as many fields are there, those many combinations are possible, but only compulsion is that a primary key has to be there. Okay, so let's come back to what we were discussing. Okay, so what is minimal super key? So minimal super key is the minimum attribute which will help me, minimum attribute in a super key, huh? I'm talking about super key. So a key is nothing but the minimal super key. Okay, and what is a minimal super key? The minimum attribute which has to be there in a super key. So which is the minimum attribute which has to be there? Obviously the primary key. Other than that, all others might be there, might not be there, but without the primary key I cannot uniquely identify that particular tuple. So this is what is the restriction. So this is meant by the minimal super key. Okay, so the same thing has been, I have just pasted the same thing here. The key is a minimal super key if after removing it, it fails to identify. Okay, so that has to be there, it has to be minimally be there. Okay, next one is candidate key. Okay, so candidate key is the same as primary key, but certain times it is referred, it is nothing but, candidate key is nothing but wherein all those attributes which actually are the candidates for becoming the primary key. For example, in maybe some table, maybe there is, I must have had it, yes. Let's look at this table. Car table. In this table, can you just observe these various attributes which have been given here? So you can see that car table has license number, has engine serial number, then it has make, the model, the year. So in all these fields, which fields appeal to you that that field can be made as primary key? Can you please observe? Definitely license number is definitely a unique field, so license can become a primary key. Can you look at the engine serial number? But obvious, we understand that any engine number for any of the vehicle is unique, so that can also become a primary key. So both these are candidate keys. That means they are candidates for becoming the primary key. You might choose anyone. Okay, they both of them serve the purpose. Okay, so they have that criteria of becoming the primary key. They'll be able to uniquely help you uniquely identify the various tuples. So these are nothing but candidate keys. Coming back to the primary key, the key which is chosen from the candidate keys as primary key. Maybe I'll choose this as primary key. Okay, so out of candidate keys, one becomes the primary key, or I might choose even this one, or maybe both together. That is also fine. So this is what is primary key. The chosen key to uniquely identify is known as primary key. And now let's see here. Now there's something called as the integrity constraints. So we'll just go through. Yes. So we have integrity of the types. One is entity integrity, then another one is referential integrity. I have mistakenly skipped it out, writing it was entity integrity, and then referential integrity and foreign keys. So let's write the first thing. uh, uh, let's see the first thing, that is entity integrity. It says there are a couple of things, rules regarding these entity integrity, referential integrity, or what does that rule mean? It is actually a rule. Okay, entity integrity is kind of some constraint or rule. It is, see, you can see here. So entity integrity constraint, it is a rule. What does the rule state? It says that no primary key can have null values. I've already explained you this. If a primary key has null value, then it will not serve the purpose of helping you uniquely identify the different tuples. So none of the primary key attributes can have the null value. So that rule is known as entity integrity rule, okay, or constraint. Then there's another constraint which is known as referential integrity constraint. Referential integrity constraint talks about that if there are, there is a connectivity or there is a relationship between, let me go back here. Okay, so this is a schema for company database. Okay, so you remember that these were the different tables or different relations in our database. So there was an employee table, there was a department table, there was department location, then project, works on, and dependent. Let us just try and analyze it. Can you see SSN has been underlined? That means it's a primary key. In department number has been underlined. That means it is the primary key. Can you see here department number and department location has been underlined both together? So you can see, but obvious, we can see that if this is a primary key here, it is the same department numbers which are going to be used here. Okay, I'll tell you the importance of it. Just keep it in mind that I'm going to be using this knowledge somewhere. So these department numbers are the same which are going to be entered here. Now P number, that is the project number. Okay, so it is a primary key. Then you have ESSN and P number. Okay, this P number and this P number are going to be the same. Okay, so what is the importance? Let's see in the upcoming slides. Then you have ESSN, so these two are the same, dependent name. Okay, so these are couple of things about this particular schema. Let's go here. What is meant by, so I was talking about the various constraints or various rules. So one rule that we saw was entity integrity. That means the primary key cannot be null. So this is the first rule, and that rule is known as entity integrity constraint. Please remember, students, you can be queried in the examination as to what do you mean by or define the term entity integrity constraint, and you might be told to explain and elaborate it. Then you should be able to elaborate and define it. Then comes referential integrity. Now what do you mean by referential integrity is what I'm explaining here. For example, let's talk about department locations and department here. So you can see the department number here seems to be the primary key. Okay, and the department, now this department numbers, which is here, are the same numbers which should be here. Do we agree to this? Because imagine I have written in the department location table certain department location, and I write department number as 6. Okay, 6. Then is it possible, because I have no department with the department number, that I think this should be the primary table. Okay, so what is expected actually is, whenever you're talking about primary key and foreign key, then foreign key always should have values which are already existing in the primary key, otherwise the integrity is not maintained. Okay, so this is what is the meaning. So this is what is integrity constraint. So let's see here. So the same company relational database with referential integrity has been explained to you. Okay, so you can see that the department number which is here is the same which will be used in this table, which is the same as it would be used in this particular table, and it is the same as it would be used in this table. Okay, so if I have supposingly the department number, this is the primary table and this is the primary key here, then I cannot have here some value which does not exist in this primary key, with the various tuples in this particular table. So I cannot have, supposingly there is no department with the department number 10 and I have it here, then it is completely wrong because it doesn't exist in the primary table here. Okay, so this is what is the meaning of the referential integrity, and you should be able to define it, minded students. So so I'll just read it out what has been written, or what is the formal definition of how you would explain if asked as to what is referential integrity constraint. It is: referential integrity constraint is specified between two relations and is used to maintain the consistency among the tuples in the two relations. That means integrity constraint states that a tuple in one relation that refers to another relation must refer to the existing tuple in that relation. That means if I am referring to department number 10, then department number 10 should exist in the department table. If I am referring to department number 20, then department number should exist in that particular primary table or the first table, which is keeping a note of all the tables. So this is not possible unless and until this department table has that number 10. If it doesn't have, then even this table, that is employee table, cannot have a department number. So the various connectivity. So if the project the table is keeping a note of all the project numbers, then it should first have the project number. I cannot use some project number here unless and until it exists in this particular project table. So this is what is meant by integrity constraint. Now they have told certain rules about the foreign key. So as I told you, if it is a primary key here, then it is a foreign key here. Same thing is a foreign key. Foreign key and primary key are going to help us build the relationship between the two tables which are concerned. Okay, so let's go and talk about the various rules regarding it. So first rule is the foreign key of R1 that references relation R2 if it satisfies the following rule. So let's do the first rule. So the first rule says the attributes of foreign key have the same domain as primary key attributes. Same domain as in, they should be, the definition should be the same. Domain means what? The what kind of value that particular attribute can take. Supposingly I have defined the department number to be number of the length only 2, then this should be the same domain defined everywhere else. Supposingly here or here, everywhere this department number should have this particular definition only. This domain itself, domain is nothing but the definition, the atomic value that you can put for that particular attribute. So you have to have the same definition everywhere. Okay, this is what is the meaning. Then the next rule is a value of foreign key in a tuple T1 of a current state R1 either occurs as a value of pk for some tuple T2 in the current state or is null. Okay, so that means the second rule that I have been telling you, that is the referential integrity. That means any tuple which exists for a foreign key has to be there for one or the other tuple for the primary key. That value should exist. That means the same thing as referential integrity. The foreign key, if it has some certain value for certain that particular attribute, then that values, if supposing, let's take the example, supposingly the table has 10 the department number, then 10 the department number should exist in the department, the primary table in the primary key. Okay, so that is a compulsory rule. So these are the two rules regarding the foreign key. Now we were talking about couple of integrity constraints. One is the so let me just take you back to the various constraints that we were doing so that you know what we are talking about. We've gone a lot behind, I think. Okay, it's yeah. So the which were the different constraint criterias. One was inherent constraint, one was schema constraint, one is application based constraint. So inherent constraint we have understood, schema constraint is what we were doing. Okay, and now we are talking about the semantics. Okay, so we have come to the semantics as in the application based. Okay, so semantics is nothing but the third category there as in application based constraint. So there were three constraints that we saw. One was inherent constraint, that is inbuilt, it is by default, something primary key cannot be null or something like that. So these are by default there. Then you had the other constraint which was known as schema constraint, and the third one is the semantic constraint. Semantic is nothing but application based. Okay, so what can you do in the application based constraint? It is nothing but, for example, I have given you this example already. Supposingly you want to put the restriction that the supervisee, that means the subordinate salary, the supervisor salary, supervisee, I mean the subordinate salary cannot be greater than his supervisor. So this constraint can be put in the application. Okay, salary of the employee cannot be lowered. Okay, once given the salary of the employee cannot be lowered down or cannot be reduced. So these are some application based, so you can apply it in the application itself. So it is also known as semantic integrity constraints. Now this is another question which can be asked as a full-fledged question, as in constraint violations. There are always some or the other constraint violations. Rules are there, but then rules are broken at some times in certain situations, and what are the actions that we can take for them is what is being discussed here. So when you are doing the insert operations, what are the constraint violation means? You tend to break these constraints, break these certain rules. Okay, so in that case, so what is the first what are the rules? It says integrity entity integrity violation. That means what? The primary key cannot be null. Okay, but then initially when the new tuple is there, the table has just now been created, then in that instance of time the key also will have null value by default. Okay, so this is one way of looking at it. Then a key of new tuple is the same as the existing one. Okay, so that is also possible. So these are foreign key of a new tuple refers to non-existing tuple. Referential integrity. Now I'm talking about what you have done is you have deleted from the primary table department number 10. Okay, and in some other table department number 10 still exists. Okay, so this is integrity violation. That means there is no relation because this has already been deleted, this has been deleted already. Now this already still exists, so this is possible. I have just now deleted it. So what should be done? What is the meaning? What is the state of this now? Is it valid data or invalid data? So that is what. So these are a couple of problems. So what is the way of dealing with it is you can reject the attempt to insert, or give an opportunity to the user to try and insert in some other way which will not hamper the constraint. It will go according to the constraint and try and insert it from some other way. This way, coming from this door is illegal, you try and enter from somewhere else, try and do the same thing in a legal way. So this is what is the constraint violation. So in while doing the insert, some constraint violations can happen, and how to handle them. Then while doing the delete also, some constraint violations can happen. Okay, so what are those? So it is quite possible you're trying to delete a row or a tuple and you're referring to already deleted one. Okay, so what are the three ways of doing, how do you handle this situation? You either reject the deletion, you can reject, you can totally say no, it is not possible, it has already been deleted. Or what you should do is, anytime, for example, I had told you in one table 10 is deleted and in another table 10 is there. So in these kind of situations, make it sure the moment 10 is deleted, it should be deleted from all the referring tables where all this entry might be there. From all of them it should be deleted. So this is what is reference. So all from all it should be deleted. Okay, or you can modify the foreign key attribute values so that it doesn't refer to them. So these are the ways in which delete operation might try and avoid this kind of integrity violation. Then update operation, whenever it happens, it might again do the same thing. So let's see what all it can do. So in update, so you are trying to update, you can update any value. So you are trying to update the primary key value and you accidentally give it the same as another tuple. So some other, you are trying to change the USN of some person, you had entered it wrong and you gave you changed that USN of that particular student to some other USN which is the same. Maybe 2 was already existing and initially you had given like something else and you change it to 2 only. So what happens is, it is the same as some other person now after updating. So what should be done? How can you handle it is being written here. The foreign key is changed and new one refers to the non-existing tuple, or the primary key is changed. Okay, now other tuples that have referred are, so the primary key itself is changed. Now USN does not is not no more the primary key, so it is okay to have to. So you might change it like that. So update operation can also be handled. Now another way, another thing is that transactions, whenever transactions happen, what happens is simultaneous use is there from many people. A live example if I have to give you, then we book the railway tickets, or we book the airline tickets online. So many people, thousands of people or hundred of people, couple of more number of people are trying to book the railway ticket or airline ticket at the same instance of time. It looks as if all of them are simultaneously working, all of them are trying to access the same set of tables, but then actually they are being handled sequentially. And what if, suppose one person books the railway ticket, immediately it is updated to all other screen that this particular ticket has been already booked. So that kind of transaction also is there, and how to do it is what has to be seen. So this is what is meant by constraint violations. So there are simultaneous uses there. So this is also about simultaneous uses there, but then we have to find out ways as to how sequentially they can be found done. With this, students, I finish today's session and hope you understand. Anything that you do not understand, please get back to me.